for school trustee to just address this. And if anything else, what happened through that process was that I was given a platform, and it was kind of funny because they couldn't necessarily shut it down because it was part of political office, and they didn't have the opportunity to just say, oh, you just can't run for school trustee. So I really enjoyed it. Like, it honestly was a blast, watching people, maybe other trustees, having to have the conversation that they refuse to have with parents. And I did have a lot of parents approach me and say, thank you for doing this, because I have sent email after email, phone call after phone call, tried to meet with these trustees to talk about this kind of stuff, and they will not hear it. They won't even acknowledge it. So if anything else, that's kind of where we went.
I almost got it.
You almost got it. You almost got it. Thank you. I will do the rest.
Thank you.
So a big part of my platform was on this man. So I'm going to start here in terms of the SOGI ideology. Where does it come from? As you can read, John William Money. I talked about this at length in my platform as well, because I think if we don't start here, we don't get a good picture of what we're talking about. This is where gender ideology, the term, was coined. Gender is a German word that had a different meaning prior to Dr. John Money, if you can call him a doctor. I would call him a monster personally, but he, as you can see, would start therapy sessions with a young boy, the Reimer brothers, and there was a botched circumcision. So something happened in the circumcision process. From what I understand, it was still a recoverable surgery that could have happened for this young boy, but Dr. John Money decided that he would castrate this young boy and raise him as a female, as a girl. He would try his new gender ideology beliefs on this young boy, and as you can see, it did not end well. He would take pictures of the two brothers in sexually compromised positions, doing sexual activity for research purposes. Till the day that he died, John Money believed that this was a success. This was a good example of how gender reassignment surgery could look. Fast forward to today, and through this presentation, you'll see where we're at. It hasn't changed much in terms of genital mutilation, the psychological damage done to children. Jen's going to speak a little bit about that and the books in school. But that's where we're coming from. So both brothers, sadly, and completely preventably, died. One definitely by suicide, and you could argue that the suicide of drug overdose was another one. But that's how it ended for these two boys that had been sexually abused from a young age, tried to be convinced by adults in their life that they were either a boy or a girl, and it ultimately led to drug overdose, and the other brother, David, I believe, he committed suicide with a firearm. And that's the legacy that John Money would consider successful. So that's where we're starting. That's the beginning of gender ideology in sexual orientation and gender identity. Where does it come from? You would remember from Nietzsche, philosopher, late 20th century, but into the 1960s. Postmodernism, as defined like this: broad skepticism, subjectivism, or relativism, a general suspicion of reason, an acute sensitivity to the role of ideology in asserting and maintaining political and economic power. I often tell the story like this as like an example of what postmodernism is and how it has impacted our sexual liberation ideology. You define what is good and evil. That's what postmodernism is. Something's good for you, it may not be good for you. Something's bad for you, it may not be bad for you. So that's in a nutshell. There's a joke that I like to liken it to. There's a postmodern museum in the States, and one of my favorite lecturers was taking a tour through it, and the curator of this museum, this postmodern museum, was taking him through stairways to nowhere. Because what's the point? Like, why not, right? I think that's attractive, I think that's cool, I think it's funny. There were stairways to nowhere, crooked walls, there were doors that opened into nothingness or opened into glass rooms with mirrors, and that was essentially it. Just a very huge experiment in postmodern, this is what I think would be cool.